decade, we've seen a population increase in rural America, so I think things are beginning to slowly improve, but obviously there's a lot more work to do.
Appreciate it. I thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Senator Fischer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Secretary, good to see you. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to follow up a little here on what my colleague, Senator Lujan, was talking about. We had a fire this week in central Nebraska that burned over 70,000 acres. And I'm thankful that currently there aren't any reported injuries, but obviously when you have a significant number of acres like that and the time of year it's taking place, getting hay bales as well as pasture, it's going to be an issue. So as we learn of the damages, I appreciate your commitment to work with my office and Nebraskans to get the necessary disaster assistance to producers in a timely manner.
Would encourage your team to take a look at our disaster at a glance document that basically outlines the various programs that could be available.
Great. I'd also echo sentiments that Senator Height-Smith spoke about with regard to our disaster programs, and I do have a bipartisan bill with Senator Lujan that would ensure that USDA has the authority to provide some of those advanced cost share payments for the Emergency Conservation Program and the Emergency Forest Restoration Program.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. You know, a lot of times it takes a year or two to get those payments out, and you could see people out of business.
It's also important because what we're now seeing are disasters on top of disasters. I was up in New England where they had a flood, and just when they got things right, they got hit with another disaster, which basically eliminated all the good work they had done up to that point. So it is important, I think, and necessary for us to figure out a different mechanism for providing the help more quickly to people.
Yeah, it's we haven't had snow for a while. It'll come back. It's March in Nebraska, but we still have the winds, and that was the big issue with these fires that we had. I've also expressed concern previously that conservation dollars, I believe, need to be prioritized based on locally driven conservation needs. We have large resource concerns that I hear about in Nebraska, and it centers around water quantity and water quality, and those are not prioritized, nor are they permitted under IRA funding. About 65% of the practices funded in Nebraska from 2020 to 2022 were deemed only provisionally eligible or not eligible at all under the IRA. As USDA sort of considers what practices should be eligible under the IRA funding, is it accurate that if a state or a local NRCS office believes a practice should be eligible, that they must then use their own limited time and resources to make that case to USDA?
Well, I want to make sure that we're tracking on this, because I think Nebraska is part of the Western Water Initiative, where we've actually allocated resources above and beyond the IRA focused on this issue of water.
But I'm speaking specifically that the water projects don't qualify under the IRA. There are other programs they can qualify under, but not under the IRA. Is that correct?
I think that is correct. I could stand to be corrected, but I think that is correct. But there are other programs available with resources, with the normal budgeted resources that are available for that purpose.
Correct. But when you have over half of the programs in Nebraska that address water, that need to address water, and locally the NRCS offices in the past have always prioritized those and continue to, it limits the availability then to tap into what I believe are conservation practices that should be recognized when we talk about the IRA. That instead of it all being based on emissions, well, I think we should be able to recognize those.
I think it's based on the science that these practices will impact and affect greenhouse reductions or carbon sequestration. again, the regular programs can be utilized for the purposes that folks at the local level feel are most appropriate.
I agree with that statement, but I also continue to push that those decisions need to be made at the local level, and passing a bipartisan bill that addresses just one segment, that local offices in a state recognize the need and prioritization of other resources, as in water quality and quantity. I'm concerned, I'm saddened that those are not recognized here by the federal government, by USDA anymore, as being important for the state of Nebraska.
Well, I think that's not what they're saying. Well, we could argue about this
Yeah,
back and
we're
forth. But it's
talking
not
back
about
and forth.
they're not being important. They are not necessarily climate smart.
We'll have a discussion sometime on that, because you understand the importance of water
Right,
resources
but-
in the state of Nebraska and the value we have for that resource.
Absolutely, and that's why they're part of the Western Water Initiative, $1.9 billion being made available.
I think they're climate smart projects as well.
Well, fair enough.
So we differ on that. We differ on that. The USDA has been investing significant funds to increase independent processing capacity, and I thank you for that. We've seen a number of grants that have been awarded. 186 million went to 24 projects. Another 171 million went to some other projects. But yet we see the EPA now, their own regulatory analysis shows that if they take their preferred regulatory route, that anywhere between 16 to 53 of those processing facilities will close as a result. And my office has heard from a lot of small independent facilities that are concerned that EPA is maybe underestimating the impact of that, and they're worried their facilities are going to close. So while I thank you for the investment by USDA, are you worried? Are you worried about that?
We provided input to the to EPA, which is why their preferred alternative, I think, is limited to 16. They offered 3 options. The preferred alternative is limited to 16. The third option is the 58. And we'll continue to work with folks. I think we'll still continue to have a strong commitment to expanded processing. We're not finished with additional resources. We also put together a plan, a relending plan, so that facilities that may be on the edge now have access to credit to get them to a better place. So it may very well be that option is available to address whatever the EPA is requiring.
Yeah, and I appreciate that as well, because you know, we have the 3 of the 4 big processors in the state, but there's also a big movement in Nebraska, as you know, to have more localized processing plants, and the effect that has on rural communities, local producers is tremendous, and so people are getting a little leery, though, about that. And if I hear some questions, can we reach out to you on that then?
You bet.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now, last but certainly not least, the senator from New Jersey.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, Senator Bozeman and I wrote to you urging the USDA and the USAID to move quickly with the $1 billion purchase and